So, good morning, everybody. I welcome everybody to this first episode of Transformative Brews. I have a fantastic guest here with me today. I'm your host. My name is Ragnar Goreshi, and I would love to welcome Lex, my first guest, the co-founder of Overmind. And I pass the word to you, Lex, so that you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you very much, Ragnar. I feel flattered. Yeah, well, I love technology, and actually that brought us together, as you remember. Started with augmented reality, especially in customer care. I was fascinated by all those new methods and possibilities. And then, I just changed over to create some platforms for product videos. And finally, of course, large language models have arrived, and I of course, dived into immediately. And that's why I founded with partners Overmind.one. We consult companies mid to large caps. We really focus on conversational AI, which is a specific field I feel comfortable with. So not doing the kind of millions of automatizations that are shown on LinkedIn, really diving into my domain, and that's language.
Fantastic. Yes, and I do recall our first meeting because we talked about augmented reality at that time of sales experience, customer experience, etc., which is something that brought us together. And even more exciting to see that you now focus on AI agents and conversational AI, because that is also an area, obviously, that I'm very interested in, being focused on customer experience. Now, my first question to you. Everybody talks about AI. What is AI for you?
I think AI is a translator, especially large language models, a translator to talk to machines and access their knowledge in a human-friendly way. So we can talk to machines, we can talk to data, we can talk to products, and that's what it's all about. Secondly, of course, it's the automation, which attracts me a lot. So you can save a lot of time doing those automations and workflows. And of course, as I said, conversational AI becomes my field of research. And of course, we must be honest, AI is a source of income for me.
Something, absolutely. And why not from AI? I mean, it's an obvious topic. You mentioned conversational AI, not necessarily AI agents. So why conversational AI?
Okay, let's start with the agents because you mentioned them. I mean, this is a very new field, and a lot of people really try around, I must say. And I was talking to some original gangsters of AI, in the States, and they tried really to orchestrate hundreds of agents doing stuff, and you can feel like you see ants running around and doing something, which is nice, of course. But I think it's not mature, especially on corporate base. There are a lot of open questions with compliance and legal codes. So I thought, why not diving in conversational AI, making those kind of bots or however you call them more human, more able to express themselves in a good manner and make people on the other side, humans, feel well. So that was my interest in conversational AI.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that, because a couple of years ago, whoever has been working with bots, it always felt very, very focused, awkward. You never really got the answer that you were looking for.
Yeah.
You somehow felt that you get further, but not really where you want. You didn't really get the answer that you were looking for. I have tested your agents, and I find them indeed very, not humanoid, but in a way very similar to how humans would interact in conversations. And that is really impressive because, as we all know, what normally everybody thinks is that what us humans set us apart is not necessarily the large content that we can digest, because obviously AI is much better on that, but the ability to understand emotions, to be empathic, etc. Talking to your agents actually feels almost as if you would be talking to a human, which is really impressive. So can you tell me a bit more how you achieve that?
Yeah, they feel like my kids. I mean, I have a real human daughter and some other children, brothers from another mother, as I would say. And, I try really to give them my kind of humor. And I found out a lot of stuff about humor itself because I was trying to teach them quotes from Groucho Marx, from the Marx Brothers, a very kind of old combo, from last century. But not just entering those quotes, but really trying to explain the context of it. And suddenly the bots changed, their answers changed. So it was a revelation in a way, like, okay, wow, they really understood it
They
in a
get
way.
it.
They got it. And so I was playing around a bit. Like, I mean, I invented Baggy, the travel bag that talks bag, and that was a kind of funny thing. I was really engaged a lot to give him a very special character, to be a companion on one hand, but, a fanny pal you would rely on the other hand. And of course, I was also thinking to create bots that are actually data. So how would data talk with you? What kind of formal way would they choose? So you see, there is really a lot of field of research you can dive into. And I was fascinated. So I was really playing around like hell. And as I said, I found out some things and I was connected to very interesting startups like Feedback Intelligence.ai from the States. And they came up with an interesting solution. So they really find out about implicit feedback. So they find out whether the demands were met actually by humans when talking with bots. And so you see, all tech stack, and that's great.
That's wonderful. Diesen letzten Satz, den habe ich gerade verloren. Der war irgendwie nicht zu hören bei mir. Jetzt verliere ich dich gerade.
Okay. Passt.
Wonderful. Now, we talk about all the positive things. Of course, there are also challenges. Tell me a bit from your perspective, what are the major challenges when it comes to deploying AI?
First, it's not the technology anymore. Okay, so it's really easy to build even complex technology with small teams, with less investments. So that's not really the challenge. The challenge is, as always, in a corporate environment, the legal boundaries, the compliance codes of companies, the access levels, all the tricky stuff, which, for example, Microsoft has resolved brilliantly, So they are really the corporate software because they deal with all those intricacies. And I think AI is a kind of young, wild kid now. I can do everything. Just give me, feed me. But on the other hand, of course, in a corporate environment, it's important to have kind of access levels, restrictions, and all that kind of stuff. It's possible, of course, to do it. But as you said, it's a challenge. So legal boundaries, compliance codes, I think those are the major challenges when you talk with companies about implementing AI.
Yeah, agree. What I also see, which I find really interesting, is that for me, there's really a race happening at the moment between China and the US. Also, in terms of it's the first time that I see that the concern of the US that they are not fast enough. So that for me is interesting because normally Europe is seen as being a bit slower because we really take care of all the privacy elements, we try to protect intellectual property, etc., which in nature means that you're potentially growing a bit slower, but on a more stable fundament, hopefully. But seeing now the concerns that the US had with that earthquake of DeepSeek being announced and then suddenly being really a challenger to what has been issued by very dominated AI market in the US is very interesting for me to see. But also the nationalities that really fight with each other. It's a big thing. So AI is really, it's really one of those technological revolutions as far as I'm concerned.
I must say, don't forget about Le Baguette in France.
Okay.
They will be very embarrassed if you don't mention them.
has to be mentioned.
There are two major blocks, of course, fighting with each other. But I think, honestly, if we talk about technology, I don't think that the US can keep up the pace. I mean, it's always like with the first ones who invented something, they are seldomly the ones who really profit from it later on. So it's not the kind of inventors. And if you see how China approaches it, I mean, they offer a lot of open source environments. They really are interested in kind of being spread, of course, being spread all around the world. And OpenAI really gets a problem with their kind of profitability. So will be interesting to see, as you said, how the war goes on. But for us, it's brilliant because they come up with brilliant stuff almost every week. I mean, it could not get better.
Yeah, I agree. It is amazing. I also, and of course that went viral, but seeing the two large language models talking to each other and then suddenly switching to another language, that was a bit scary, I have to say. To imagine that this is a language that we don't understand, because that really goes very quickly in all these fantasy series or science fiction films almost. But it is unbelievable what is possible today.
If we see us humans, I mean, I don't know how many languages we have on our planet, probably around 300 or even more.
I think more. Yeah.
It's a problem, you know, it really consists of. So having a kind of gibberish, a kind of very lean language, express and then getting what you want in return, I mean, is a logical consequence out of it. Let's be honest. So of course it's weird when you hear it first, but it really makes sense from a logical point of view. And I mean, let's just look into the future, 400, 500 years. I don't know how many languages we'll have then. So probably, nobody. So it's a glimpse of the future we can see when LLMs talk with each other.
Yeah, I would still hope, though, that we keep as much as possible the diversity that we have today. And there are fantastic programs and projects also in context of AI, where, for example, dialects that are about to expire and to die, that they are conserved so that they really stay for human, like a bit of a repository, and at least as a sign that they were there before. So I would love to not see that happening, what you mentioned, but
Yeah,
who knows? None of us will see
who
it.
knows?
Yeah,
Let's
who
agree
knows?
on.
Exactly.
But I forgot one thing to say. Yeah, I was talking about the compliance and legal challenges of companies, but of course there are two other challenges too. I forgot to mention actually, and it's the integration into existing environments. So every company has a past, or most of them, and they have of course built structures, software stacks, procedures, processes, and stuff. And now the new kid comes in town like an elephant into the porcelain shop, and he's very present and very big and stuff, and destroys a lot. So I think that the integration is also a major challenge. And that's why we at Overmind.one really start with a deep discovery, not just about technical environments, but also human environments. So, how will people kind of perceive the new technology? Are there fears? So, integration is not just the technical integration, it's also the adaptation of humans inside a company. And the last one I mentioned already is the processes. I mean, they are built kind of with blood, sweat, and tears. They were built with blood, sweat, and tears in the past. So it's a trial and error, trial and error. And at the end, a company comes up with something which is waterproofed, which works. And now something, as I said, something new, wild comes into the scene, and that can cause problems or will cause problems most of the times.
I love that you mentioned that because that's also my impression at the moment. I think there is a bit of a danger coming also from that customer experience side, customer centricity side. There is a bit of a danger to just limit everything on the technology side, which is undoubtedly an important part, but not the only one. And as you mentioned, it is important to be a sensible change manager because at the end, let's face it, these are big transformation projects that need to happen in companies. They are and they are not done with one shot. They are a continuous change program, and they need to pick up people. They need to make sure that the employees go with it and follow. And that is a big task in companies. And I love that you really focus on that, because that's super important. I completely agree.
So let me finish with the sentence I love. I We agree to agree.
Yes, we don't disagree. We agree. Absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you would love to mention?
A lot of people talk about the future, so about kind of human level intelligence and stuff like that. And everybody wonders whether the existing LLMs will be kind of evolved into something like that. And there is my favorite guy. I know him from the crypto scene. It's Ben Goertzel, and you can Google him. And I mean, he's really an old and wise guy, literally. And he really said that the current environments don't lead us to the human level intelligence. So it must be really done in a complete different way. I mean, now they started with reasoning machines. Then the next one will be curiosity driven AI. So actually, like humans, I see something, which attracts me, and I just divert into a complete new field because I'm interested now in exploring something there. And then I switch to another field. So it's like kids, seeing something new and just a bit like attention economy. The next one will be then the human level intelligence, AGI. Um, that will be really interesting because then we are kind of in the Terminator movie. And we'll be like, hey, you humans, you're so stupid. I have to take over because you kill yourself because I know how it works on that planet. We'll see. I mean, nobody knows, but we are actively working towards such a scenario.
It's super exciting what it brings. It is something you have to really put yourself all in, because otherwise the pace of innovation and all the things happening, it's really hard to keep up. But it's amazing to see also where you see the future of things happening. Yeah, agree. Well, that said, it was a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank
Yeah.
you for having a virtual coffee with me, being in the context of that video podcast and the coffee culture. Now, I would love to finish that interview or that conversation with a question to you. Do you like coffee or tea?
Hmm. Hmm. Later the same century. um, Actually, it depends really on my mood. Sometimes I'm the kind of very British 5 o'clock tea guy, so with a kind of bit of a milk, it is. And sometimes I really like the coffee culture and the coffee itself. It really depends. I could not say that I'm a fanboy of one or the other.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it was lovely having you with me. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye bye.